Broadway, and we're excited and happy to have you all join us here today for this wonderful press conference to truly announce publicly that On Broadway has been selected as one of 6 programs nationally to be accepted into the inaugural Unlocking Capital on Main Street program. This program is funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and supported by Repurpose Capital. So you'll be hearing from a few folks in a little bit here. First off, though, I do want to recognize some elected officials that are with us today. John Foss is here with Senator Ron Johnson's office, and also Alder Hinkfist with the Redevelopment Authority here in the city of Green Bay, and certainly Mayor Eric Enrick as well, who you'll hear from in a little bit. But first off, we're going to have Matt Wagner, PhD. He is the Chief Innovation Officer with Main Street America. On Broadway is a very proud Main Street program, so we're thrilled to have Matt here with us today. He is responsible for leading the innovation team at Main Street America. He's focused on internal and external research, new business support, and piloting, testing, and launching new ideas, tools, and technologies. Please join me in welcoming Matt Wagner.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be with you. Thanks so much for having me here on Broadway in Green Bay. And yeah, we're extremely excited to be announcing that On Broadway, a Wisconsin Main Street program, part of our national efforts involving ways of working with businesses and real estate development, to be selected to participate in the Unlocking Capital program on Main Street that is generously funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Now, a little bit more about what Unlocking Capital is all about. So this provides On Broadway and 2 other Wisconsin Main Street programs in Racine and West Allis. But it's important to note that On Broadway is part of an exclusive group, one of 6 in the entire country that's participating in this effort of cohort learning and support, receiving technical assistance in capital absorption, one-on-one coaching, and very important to communities is some funding. So we'll be providing $70,000 in grant and access to a pool of $500,000 in redevelopment to help spur what they're going to be going through as part of this particular process as they develop their priority projects in alignment with the community. Now, this program leverages Main Street America's past work in what we call entrepreneurial ecosystem building. So it's really about strategic alignment here of the financial capital resources and the capacity that exist here. And we're proud to be partnering with the Center for Community Investment to really implement and align our 4-point approach framework with their capital absorption framework. Now, this framework exists within 3 functions. One is being able to articulate shared priorities and creating an something to execute in investing pipelines of various projects and improving really the enabling environment that creates efficiency within real estate development and other investment projects. Now, as part of this, we're also partnering with what we call our sister organization at the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and that's Repurpose Capital. And so now I'm going to turn the podium over to Patrice Fry, who is the president and CEO of Repurpose Capital. Thank you once again.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to be here on this absolutely gorgeous day. I am Patrice Fry, President and CEO of Repurpose Capital, and I'll tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. Repurpose Capital exists specifically to support smaller scale projects that we see a need. We see a need for capital on Main Street. So my previous role actually was working with Matt at Main Street America, and we'd go out to communities and we'd see again and again where there are these wonderful older and historic buildings that are underutilized, vacant or underutilized, and Repurpose Capital is here to really help support communities like Green Bay as they are repositioning these assets. Just looking around here, you can see there's so much wonderful work that On Broadway is already doing, and a lot to build on in terms of generating developing additional density here, additional retail, additional housing. And so we are really pleased to be part of this project, and we're excited to see what develops, the needs and the priorities of the communities, and we're hoping very much we can serve as a capital partner, helping get some of these projects off the ground. Thank you. I think I'm turning it over to you.
Yep. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Patrice. Again, such a thrill to have you and Matt both here today. Next up on our speakers list is President and CEO of On Broadway, Brian Johnson.
All right, thank you, Mary, and thank you to all our partners who are here today. We're here for a few reasons, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why we're here on this site in particular, but we're really here to address the challenges and the difficulties sometimes that comes with the state of small-scale development. Many of you have probably heard the term the missing middle housing crisis. It's a real thing, and it's how do you build small-scale housing that help serve our community in particular places, right? So it's not your single-family home or your duplex, and it's not your 100-unit apartment building, but think about your 4-unit, your 8-unit, your 16-unit. The same conditions that created that environment are no different than what we see within commercial real estate development. And it continues to inhibit our ability to put up small buildings in downtowns, which are critically important. And oftentimes, communities are faced with this concept or this dilemma of you have house flippers in your community that have an incredible skill set, an area of expertise. They do the work, they get in there and find the right projects. And then you have large-scale real estate developers who come in and do a project like the Fort at the Rail Yard, another incredible project, but requires a skill set and a level of expertise that your house flipper oftentimes doesn't have. And so we need to bridge that gap and help find a way to make sure that we can do these small-scale or even medium-sized development projects here in our commercial corridors. We're here to really offer an alternative to what has become the overbuilt suburban mall. And when you think back to the mall that existed here in downtown Green Bay, I want to remind folks that Wbay plan resulted in the destruction of 107 buildings downtown to build that mall. And then that mall eventually came down, and then you were left with these vacant sites. Fortunately, Schreiber Foods stepped in and did an incredible job with reusing that property. But what we're trying to do is offer that alternative that can provide space for our small-scale manufacturers, for our artisans, for our small businesses, that not only give them a space to thrive, but create a downtown that we can all be proud of. Unfortunately, the tool bucket to be able to do a lot of these things is pretty bare. In the state of Wisconsin, when it comes to development, TIF tends to be one of your primary incentive tools, but beyond that, there's very little to lean in on, and we're trying to correct that. So we're grateful to National Main Street for having the vision to be able to say, hey, if we approach the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and pitch them this idea, can we make this work in our small downtowns throughout the country? National Main Street we've been a partner for as long as I can remember. We are a proud recipient of their national award, an honor that you can only receive one time, and that was many years ago. But it's a big deal to have them here. It really is, guys. They can't visit every downtown. How many members do you have, Matt? Thousands, right? All right, well, we're going to say thousands, okay? Thousands that want to be members, but communities, yes. But it is a big organization that represents communities our size. Patrice, as the former CEO of that organization, has spun off the sister program, Repurpose Capital, recognizing a trend when working with these small to medium-sized downtowns and trying to deliver a solution, which is what this grant is really meant to do. And of course, to have the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation invest here in Green Bay is an incredible honor, and we're excited to put their money to good use. As Mary alluded to, we are one of 6 programs in the nation that have been accepted into this pilot program, and it's because Green Bay is doing really great things, and we are poised to make sure that that investment is maximized. Over the past 10 years, the assessable value in the Broadway district, and I looked this up this morning, so these are facts, you guys can report these, 43.3 million was the total assessable value in the Broadway district 10 years ago. Today it is 101.5 million, which represents a growth of 58.2 million. And that growth was achieved really by doing events and working directly with small businesses, but it wasn't a concerted effort, right, to really bring in real estate development. So over the next 10 years, we're proposing to raise the total assessable value here in the Broadway district to 250 million, which would be an increase of 150 million. The point of that is to say if we grew it by 58.2 million without any tools, with the tools we're going to develop through this program, we are committed to doubling down and accelerating that growth here in the district. And for those who care about the math side of this stuff and follow it, you may understand and know that total construction costs oftentimes, almost always I should say, outpaces assessable value. So we have calculated that based on 150 million growth in assessable value, that would equate to $250 million of construction costs in the next 10 years. So if you identify the problem, and I want to acknowledge Matt Buchanan with our Department of Community and Economic Development who is here today because he's done a lot of great work around this. We have a lot of brownfields here in our downtown area that are rooted in some of the industrial uses along our riverfront. We need to correct that. Challenging site conditions drive up costs, whether you're talking about contamination or narrow site conditions. Minimum parking requirements historically have contributed to the creation of a lot of vacant lots. When a business would move in and you would tell them you have to have 20 parking stalls, what would they do? They would buy a parking lot like this and turn it into a parking lot, meaning you prohibit it from ever becoming a building. We've corrected that here in the city of Green Bay, and I'm excited about that, and now we need to take it to the next step. 50% of the land surface in downtown is surface parking. 50%. When you go to a downtown, you don't go to downtowns to park, you go to downtowns to visit amenities. You want a restaurant, you want a place to live, you want a retail shop that you can go and visit. The parking is secondary, and if we create incredible assets and incredible amenities, the parking will solve itself. It's and the minimum parking requirements have created this fragmented, inefficient use of lots. Why does so much development go to the suburbs or to greenfields? Because they're wide open lots that have no problems. These lots are more challenging, and if you want to put a big development here, you have to somehow find a way to cobble these sites together, which can sometimes be a challenge. Cost of construction has risen dramatically over the last 5 years, and the number of incentives that help close those gaps has fallen. We need to correct that. And in the Broadway district in particular, because I can speak to our circumstance and situation, don't do it. Don't do it. I feel like he's ready. We receive, as an organization, too many business inquiries that we have to turn away because we don't have enough space. And that is a problem, and it is a good problem, but it is a problem that is worth solving. So our vision and what we're going to do. One, I want to talk about this lot. As you may recall, when we did the groundbreaking on this maybe 2 years ago, I think, we did a pilot program here in 2019 for a pop-up park, well received. This is why we converted into a dog park. City of Green Bay only had one dog park, and we said from the very beginning, this lot is owned by the Redevelopment Authority. This should not always be a dog park. This should be a building. But until then, a dog park is a better use than a vacant lot where we have to cut the grass every week. This needs to be a building, and it is a perfect example of what we're trying to do in this program when we're targeting infill development. I want you to also observe the parking lots behind you here. It's fragmented. You have maybe 6 different owners back there who all are trying to solve their own parking need. And there's little incentive or motivation for them to sell those lots or be in a partnership to do something different. In an ideal world, those are all cobbled together. We could create parking capacity, and we have the renderings for it. We could create parking capacity for 30 to 40 additional stalls, create a dumpster corral where you have one point there instead of dumpsters scattered all over the place. It creates better downtowns. And then when you have that lot under site control, which is one of the biggest impediments to real estate development, you can put a building on there when the time is right. So being in a position to leverage certain tools and resources to cobble these things together is critically important for us. I want you to think about a few buildings along Broadway. 20 years ago when the Broadway district was going through its evolution. 154 North Broadway, where Salon 54 and Faucoma are located. 201 North Broadway. 163 North Broadway, right across the street, Schiff Visuals, Cocklaw Finnage. 201 North Broadway is where Baselli and Designs of the Interior is located. 111 North Broadway, which is where the Nest is located. There's 4 condos there. Those buildings were the prime example of infill development. Those were vacant lots. A developer came in and put in buildings that made them look like they belonged within that streetscape. The cost of construction and the lack of resources to do those types of projects right now, they do not reconcile. And this is why this program becomes so critically important, because we want to go back to doing more of that. We want to create a downtown that's walkable, that's vibrant, and it's filled with commerce that is good for our community. But more importantly, it stabilizes the tax base for everybody in the city of Green Bay. A downtown belongs to everybody. It's where people come. But we want to create, more importantly, a downtown that nurtures community wealth through entrepreneurship by supporting locally owned businesses and property owners, instead of constantly incentivizing people who might come here from out of the area. So how do we get there? One, as you guys all know, the city's doing a comp plan. It's a perfect opportunity for us to integrate this into the comp plan and emphasize the need for infill development here in the city of Green Bay. Additionally, we are working with ISG, a local urban design firm, to take the Shipyard Corridor plan, which has been previously approved, and did a massing study of what could go on the southern end of our district. And we're going to extend that throughout the entirety of the Broadway district. We're going to identify the parcels that are primed for redevelopment and work with those property owners to get developers and property owners connected. Going to create a resource hub for not only our property owners, but for our business owners, because they need to succeed within those spaces as well. Calling for the creation of a Community Development Corporation, or a CDC. CDCs oftentimes take on challenging real estate projects that private developers avoid because the return on investment is not there. But a CDC will do it for different reasons, for community benefit. And that is one of the outcomes that we are looking for. Boy, I am glad I numbered my pages. Okay. CDFI. City of Green Bay does not have a CDFI. There are organizations that are looking at the City of Green Bay. We'd like to help them do that. And lacking their expansion into this market, we want to create one. The revolving loan fund that the city has is an incredible tool and resource. I want to thank Mayor Genrich for his vision to try to continue to support that along with city staff, but also Alder Kathy Hinkfist, who's on our redevelopment authority, who serves on the subcommittee that oversees that, and Rebecca Finko as well from that department, does some incredible work working with us. It is an evidence-based track record of success. Take a look at Voyager's Bakehouse across the street here. That is an organization that started out of a basement, working in a kitchen, a commercial kitchen. They started selling their bread at a farmer's market. They upgraded to their space over here. They outgrew that, and then they moved into this large, magnificent, beautiful space. And they did it because of the support of the revolving loan fund. And we need to create more success stories like that, but we have to have the funding that can be lent out to do that. On Broadway has been working on a retail incubator. This is meant to identify those folks who aren't ready for permanent storefronts, but are ready to start to test that model through a network of shared support and services, so that they go through a 12 or an 18-month program, they come out with a certificate, and they've been taught and learned everything, what it takes to be a successful retail operator. Retail businesses downtown are what make healthy and successful downtowns, and so we need to double down on that. And when we can bring in those folks, we'll stabilize the rent rates. There is a huge gap and difference between buildings that exist, like the 107 that sadly were torn down, and what they pay for rent per square foot, and what a developer needs to charge for a brand new space. You might pay $10 to $12 a square foot for an existing space, and upwards of $30 a square foot or more to build out a space in a brand new building. So we have to find a way to essentially subsidize or bring that number down so that we can promote what's called oftentimes economies of agglomeration, where you bring similar types of businesses together and they create a destination, a place where people want to go and spend their time and their money. And not shockingly, those businesses more often than not are locally owned, which is incredibly important. There's no such thing as too high rent. There's only too low sales. And so if we can continue to build that density, it will continue to attract more and more people to the downtown corridor to help support those businesses. And that is money that is recycled and returned back into our community many times over. And then we're also going to build a business retention plan in partnership with a number of folks, which is already in progress this week. I want to acknowledge Linda Bova, our board president, who is here, who has really spearheaded this. We're visiting with every business and understanding what are your needs and how do we fill them. And that is going to help create us a foundation of standards by which we can measure future success. And I really want to lean into this last one, which is what's called impact investing. And that is what Patrice's organization is really looking to do and to secure additional funding to deploy capital nationwide, because it deploys capital for a different reason. A bank will oftentimes lend money to a project because they need a rate of return for their shareholders. Impact investing creates a pool of local capital for social and environmental benefits. And we see examples of that already here in the city of Green Bay. What's notable about this is when you are a philanthropist and you give to your community, you receive a 0% return. You do good, but you don't get repaid. So you might have $1 million and you donate it to a project, but you don't get that back, okay? But impact investing will loan $1 million to a project and they get a 100% return because that money is repaid. And then that money is recycled into the next project. Now, sometimes they might have a marginal gain through a rate concession, right? So they still might put maybe a 5% rate on it when a typical bank might charge 8%, for example. But it's access to affordable capital, but more importantly, it comes in at the end of the capital stack to close a project and get it done, which is oftentimes the most challenging piece to achieve. Community wealth here in our community is oftentimes invested outside of the city of Green Bay. There's different reasons for that, and there's no judgment on that. But what we want to do is create a pipeline where philanthropy stays here and that investment stays here, and it can be done in a way where those folks who are investing outside of our area can still receive a low-risk return on investment, but more importantly, keep that money local and help these projects get off the ground. It's about creating a local ecosystem while supporting our local investors, which is more sustainable for the long-term health and success of our community. Okay, quick example. Parking lots again back here, because it creates a visual for you. As I mentioned, the private sector has little motivation to do that. Impact investing can come in and provide the resources that help purchase those lots and bring them together. You solve the problem of parking for those businesses within that plan. You put in parking meters or a payment stand that allows people to pay for parking, and the revenue generated from that repays the impact investing that was put into that project. The city cannot and should not be the one and only solution to pulling these things together, and that is what impact investing is about. Now, can the city do that? Sure, right? But then it means they can't do something else, and that's what we're trying to do, is leverage private investment to complement public investment to make our community better. We talk about economic impact. Oftentimes we talk about it in the context of events, and I know Mary does a great job with that, but it's calculated through direct spending at our events, which in turn creates indirect spending and induced spending. Money is recycled, and oftentimes the economic impact is created based on a multiplier of how many times that money is recycled in our community when it's respent. And it, of course, in turn helps more of our community. The same principle applies to impact investing. You use local dollars to provide capital for desired community outcomes, and then we get a better product that enriches our community with the priorities that our community has established. Conversely, the way that oftentimes it happens is an outside developer might come in and say, I'm going to put this project in because it's going to get me the best rate of return on the investment for my shareholders in this project. We're trying to flip that script, and I think that's really important. It's not to say that we don't want outside investors. I want to be clear. We need them both. What we're trying to do is unleash more of that local capital to be used here in our community. So this is going to be an 18-month pilot program. We're not giving you all the details here today because we have to figure them out yet. But these are some of the principles that we talked about in our application. We're going to build a roadmap of how we're going to implement some of these programs, and we're already compiling a list of interested investors who have indicated that they are going to invest in a couple of projects here locally. One that I know many of you are already aware of, which is the Green Bay Public Market. Don't ask me any questions on that today, but we will have an announcement for you in 30 days, I promise. But it is an example of how impact investing is going to make something really cool in our community happen. This grant program enhancement is going to catapult the vision of the Broadway District from one that historically has been focused around events and street activation to one that is more focused on planning, is more focused on small-scale development, and supporting our businesses with the resources that they need so that we create meaningful investment projects where traditional systems have not always been able to fill those gaps. It's going to create a business ecosystem for the next generation of downtown enthusiasts. And it's going to provide tax stabilization for all taxpayers here in our city. The products and services that our community is seeking rather than it's going to provide those products and services our community is seeking rather than always having to go online and shop, right, to some black hole where you never know where that money is being reinvested. So I'm going to wrap up here again by thanking our partners for having the vision and foresight to pull this together. I want to thank the On Broadway team and our local Unlocking Capital team, some who are here today because this is really an exciting project, but it's going to be one that is going to take an incredible amount of effort for our team to fulfill. And so thank you in advance for that commitment. Including our board of directors and our committees and volunteers, as well as our many businesses who exist here. This is one of the reasons we were selected for this project, is because our organization is surrounded by incredible people, from our board of directors to our capital campaign cabinets to our elected officials. So with that, we're going to turn it over to Mayor Eric Genrich, who has been an incredible ally of On Broadway and the Broadway District, and his vision is absolutely in alignment with the number of things that we are looking to achieve here. And Mayor Genrich, we thank you for your support, and we'll let you put a bow on this.
Well, thanks so much, Brian. It's all been said, but I've been called upon to say more, so I will. But honestly, just really want to celebrate the work that On Broadway has done to bring us to this point, to celebrate the partnership demonstrated between On Broadway, National Main Street, Repurpose Capital, and Robert Wood Johnson. This is another great day for the city of Green Bay. We've been in partnership with On Broadway, obviously far predating my tenure as mayor, going back 30 plus years at this point. And I just think this is the perfect time for another evolution of On Broadway. And I think this additional infusion of capital, this partnership, really demonstrates that new chapter that is being created by the current leadership here at Wbay with Brian, obviously, and in the rest of the team. This is big news, and I just want to kind of dovetail off of some of what Brian said in terms of, I think traditionally there's development over here, and then there's philanthropy over here, and there's kind of that third space that's been created, that's being created in a lot of other communities that is still a little bit underdeveloped within the city of Green Bay. And Brian and I and a bunch of folks, including members of the chamber and other community groups, have had the opportunity to visit some of those other communities. Pittsburgh being most prominent in my mind as a great example of one that has figured out how to close that gap a little bit, to really develop that impact investing side of things. And that's really what's possible here now with this program, with the thinking of creating a community development corporation, having a CDFI within the city of Green Bay. That just unleashes so many more possibilities, because as Brian was saying, the city is doing everything literally on a daily basis to do what we can to advance development within the community. Our downtown bids, Wbay and downtown Green Bay, doing the same. We have so much generosity within this community, and we're just hoping to leverage that additionally to continue to redevelop our downtown and create what everybody really wants to see and what they see here today, which is a vibrant Broadway district, a vibrant downtown, but we just want to enhance that and take it to the next level. So again, incredibly grateful to Robert Wood Johnson, National Main Street, Repurpose Capital, Wbay, especially Wbay for thinking big about what this community can do, what we can be, and what our citizens deserve. So with that, I'm going to turn things back over to Mary to maybe manage some questions, but thanks again for having me. Congratulations.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mayor. We certainly always appreciate the support of the city here, certainly in downtown, but also specifically here in the Broadway district. So just additional special thank yous to both Matt Wagner of Main Street America and Patrice Fry of Repurpose Capital. Again, just so thrilled to have them here in downtown Green Bay and that they get to experience and see in person all the beauty and wonderfulness that we love about the Broadway district. At this time, we'll do questions. Media, you're more than welcome to do individuals or group, whichever you prefer. So thanks so much, everyone.
Any questions? Yeah. Sweet. You want to do them at the podium?
What do you guys want to do? Yeah.
Let me do this. Go ahead, Emily.